All right, guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about Once Human and the new shinies that have been added. Today's guide is going to be a little bit of where you can find them mixed with a should you actually go hunt them. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it, so let's just hop into the guide and I'll talk to you there. So what are Shiny Deviants or Deviant variants? Well, they're basically the exact same Deviant that you would get, but they have a slight twist. Sometimes they'll add a little bit more attack under certain circumstances. Sometimes they will bring back just a little bit more resources, or they will regenerate a little bit faster. For the most part, these aren't overly broken or massively game changing. They are just slight changes to the way that Deviant already works. What we can tell you based on everything we know so far is that these are slight improvements, but there's nothing in here that is absolutely broken or game changing at this point. That doesn't mean that they won't add something like that, but right now they're just fun little changes or fun little improvements that just kind of show that you got lucky. All right, so if you are trying to figure out which shiny variants you're able to get this season, the first thing you need to do is open your menu. From your menu, you need to switch over to the seasonal menu. In the seasonal menu, you need to go to the seasonal info tab. From there, you'll see something that says unique characteristics. I imagine that Once Human will follow the same pattern season over season, but just in case they don't, you're probably going to do something very similar to this to find what the variants are that you can farm in your current season if you're not currently in season 2 of the Manny Bus scenario. So from here, there's a little spot that says unique characteristics. In that, it gives you a list of which deviants have the ability to get a shiny. A couple things to note here. It doesn't tell you how many variants there are, and variants is a term I'm going to use like interchangeably with shiny. So if you hear me say variant or shiny, it's basically the same thing. But basically, it doesn't tell you how many variants there are of each deviant. It just tells you that there are variants available. I've noticed that several people have reached out to the devs, and the devs won't give us a straight answer on how many there are. It seems to be one of these like, hey, just go play the game and figure it out. I get what they're doing. They're trying to increase playtime. I don't really have a problem with that. This also leaves them open to like add additional variants throughout the season. But I do wish we would just get a clear-cut number. That way everybody knew what they were trying to farm. Having said all of that, the variants that you can get are for the Nutcracker, the Dig Boy, the Growshroom, the Extra Dimensional Cat, the Butterfly's Emissary, the Festering Gel, and the Fetch-A-Lot Bunny. So it's actually a very small list compared to the total amount of deviants that are in the game. Now, having said that, I'm going to tell you sort of where to go to get each one of these variants, or at least where to go to farm them. For the Nutcracker, you need to farm the Forsaken Giant. For Dig Boy, it seems that you need to farm high tier ores, such as like silver or gold. You will typically get one Dig Boy on your first 10 ore that you break when you come into a server. But from talking to our community, it seems that if you are not farming silver and gold ores later on in the game, you basically have no chance for them to drop. I had talked to Rusty, and Rusty and I were comparing notes. I had a ton of Dig Boys last season because I was farming for silver and gold ingots to make money, and for Rusty, she was not. So she was not farming for those, and she had realistically only got one Dig Boy for the season. That seems to line up with the reports from our community. So for the Growshroom, there's actually a couple different places, but I'm going to recommend you go to the location that I have shown on the screen. I'll put the coordinates up above. Basically go there. There should be roughly 30 or so mushrooms that you can pick in a single lap. And basically you'll just farm this, and you should try to get a Growshroom every time. The Extra Dimensional Cat, you will just go to any town, and there should be a spawn in every town that has an Extra Dimensional Cat. I'm not going to put the exact locations of each one of them. They are fairly easy to find, but just know every major settlement has a spawn for an Extra Dimensional Cat. For the Butterfly's Emissary, this is where I have been trying to farm it. I think most people are trying to farm it here. I don't know if there are more locations where you can get it, but I will put the location for this one up on the screen. as well as kind of run through a quick scenario of how to get down there from the teleporter. Long story short, you jump down from this teleporter, you fly to the ground. When you get on the ground, you hop on your bike, drive up the road. Once you get up the road, you'll come to a cliff, stop on the cliff and jump and fly over into this building. Once you get in this building, run downstairs and the deviant should spawn over across from where you walk in. The festering gel you get from the ravenous hunter. We all know where to farm that. And the Fetch-a-Lot bunny comes from these very tall trees. They are scattered throughout the map. I'm sure you can look up locations for them or just look off in the distance, but just keep your eyes peeled or you can Google it. I'm not going to give you the exact location for these trees. Or maybe I will, I don't know. We'll just have to see what I feel like putting in the video. If you see locations, then that means I'm being nice. If not, I was just being lazy. All right, guys. So whether you watched the entire video up to this point or whether you skipped ahead because we are in a season that is further than season 2, it doesn't really matter. At this point, I want to talk a little bit about me and our community's experience when it comes to farming these deviants. So first, let's start with Rusty and the extra dimensional cat. Rusty tried to farm the extra dimensional cat. They went to all 3 of the settlements that were open on week 1. They went to each settlement and they rotated through all 10 worlds for that settlement. They did that 4 separate times. You can do the math on that, but basically it was a lot of attempts at cats. They ended up getting 18 extra dimensional cats over those 4 different attempts or 4 different cycles of each, sort of settlement plus the 10 mirrors or the 10 worlds, however you want to call it. In doing that, they got 18 extra dimensional cats. Out of those 18, they got 0 shinies. So for Hunt did the mushroom caves. Hunt did 7 runs through the mushroom caves, and each run netted him about 30 mushrooms. Every time he made a run, he got 1 mushroom deviant. He even got some 5.2s, and I think he had a 5.4 going into it, but he got some pretty high level mushroom deviants. Out of those 7 runs, he got 1 shiny version. And that shiny version was a 2.2 and was not worth using compared to the current 5.4 that he has. Rusty went and did the exact same run and did 300 mushrooms worth of runs. Out of those 300 mushrooms, Rusty got 0 deviants in total. Not 0 shinies, 0 deviants, which shows how bad RNG can sort of go against you. And one of the things that we want to talk about later on revolves around this sort of discrepancy. Now, I went and did the Butterfly's Emissary. I did 2 full cycles of 10 world hops. In doing that, I got 2 butterfly emissaries to drop. Out of those 2 butterfly emissaries, 0 were shiny. Also, I did a little bit of testing. I put myself in the room and stood there 2 separate times. One time I stood there for 45 minutes. The other time I stood there for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I did not leave the room. I did nothing else. I stood there and waited for the deviant to spawn to see how long the respawn cycle was. The deviant never respawned. For the one where I was there for 1 hour and 15 minutes, the deviant was already gone when I got to the room. So this begs the question, what is the respawn timer on them? While we were live streaming today, we had a community member mention something about this and we got into a little conversation. Part of that conversation revolved around how long it takes for these deviants to respawn. I explained what my personal experience was, and they relayed to me theirs. Their experience was a little bit different than mine, and I want to let you know what they said. They said they did basically the exact same thing, but they would go in and out of Eternal Land every 30 seconds. And in doing that, they had the butterfly deviant respawn 2 times in 1 hour, which makes it sound like it is a 30-minute respawn. However, it will not respawn if you're in the room. The question here is that the case? I don't doubt my community member at all. And if I stop and think about it, there's a very good chance that the butterfly deviant is coded in as basically a chest or something similar to a chest and not the same as an NPC. When I was standing there for an hour and 15 minutes, NPCs were respawning every 10 minutes or so. Nothing else was. So there is a very good chance that the butterfly emissary, or really any deviant in the open world, acts as a chest, and you need to rezone or relog so that you can see it. It's the same thing that happens if you wait for chests to recycle through their 4 hours. If you are there and the 4-hour mark resets, the chests do not automatically close. You have to leave the zone and come back in order for them to refresh or respawn. I think that's basically what we're seeing with these open world deviants, but let me know down in the comments what your experience is, because I'm thinking that is actually how this works. So the last deviant we tested was the Ravenous Hunter. We were trying to get us some of the shiny Squishmallows. For 7 runs, Rusty and I ran it. We ran it 3-minute runs, 3.5-minute runs, and we got 1 deviant each to drop. Neither one of those were shiny. We then invited in Hunt, and we ran an additional 20 runs on top of that. During those runs, we had 2 more Squishmallows drop. That was 2 times 3, because there were 3 of us. So that was 6 plus the 4 that we got earlier. So 10 Squishmallows dropped. Out of all of those, 0 were shiny. Now, while we were streaming today, we had some community members come in and we discussed this, and they had said that the reports they were seeing was it was taking people up to 100 runs to get a shiny variant to drop. Problem is, there are multiple variants of the Squishmallow that you can get from the Ravenous Hunter, and they're not both equally good. So you could theoretically get the bad variant, or you could get a very, very low variant and have a basic one that is much better to use in general. All right, so let's be honest with each other. I'm going to give you my honest opinion on if the shiny variants are actually worth it. And in my personal opinion, I do not think the shiny variants are worth your time. Now, I think that if you have everything done in the game and you have nothing to do, and you want to play more once human, then grinding for the shiny variants is a good thing to do. But if you have a limited time to play every week, and you're trying to decide, should you go farm a shiny variant, or should you work on grinding for materials to upgrade your gear, or to get something in your base, or to get anchors, find mystical crates, things that you know will give you good solid progress, do those and don't worry about the shiny variants. I think the shiny variants are a nice addition to the game, but the way they're currently implemented does not make the most sense for the average player to go out of their way to grind. If you're already grinding a specific area or a specific boss for mods or for weapon calibrations or something like that, and you can just happen to pick one of these up passively, that is a good thing. At the end of the day, these are fun things for you to go after and try to grind, but they should not be an all-consuming part of your once human gaming experience. So having said that, I feel like I should propose a fix to the current solution. There are actually 2 different ways to make this a little bit more worth people's time. One, just increase their drop rates. There's already such a low drop rate for deviants that adding an even smaller % chance to get a shiny version just makes it not worth the time and the effort to actively farm for them. While this is probably the easiest solution, it's still not going to fix the problem, which is that in the process of grinding, you will probably get something better than the variant that you are hoping to replace it with. And that brings me to my second point, and one of the ways that I think they should really look at going with this, and that is to make variants something that you can add onto your current deviants. So the way I would propose doing this is actually creating another deviant case. In that case, you can put a regular deviant, and then you can add a deviant trait. The deviant traits would drop the same way a normal deviant does. So say you were farming the Ravenous Hunter, you would have a regular Festering gel drop, and then you would have a deviant trait drop with it. Two completely separate items. Now you can take that deviant trait and put it in the case with a deviant. And then you can add that deviant trait to the deviant and upgrade any deviant you want to be the quote unquote shiny version. I don't think I would make these single use. I think I would make it once you got it, you could do it with any deviant moving forward. And then you can just keep the low drop rate. That way, over time, if you got better versions, or if the devs added additional levels or characteristics to the deviants that you already like, you would still have the option to add those deviated traits to them, and it wouldn't make them outclassed or useless. All right, guys. Hopefully you were able to take something away from this video. Now, I didn't want to make it only good for season 2, so I did want to add some just general info and general knowledge about how to tell which deviants are available season over season based on what we're currently seeing, and I don't expect that to change. I also wanted to give my opinion on if this is actually even worth your time with the current way they're set up, and propose a solid solution moving forward. Now, I could go into more detail on the solution, but honestly, if it's something the devs really care about and they happen to see this video, all you gotta do is reach out to me. I will tell you guys exactly what I think. But having said that, hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself. If you liked the video, subscribe for more Once Human content, as well as other games in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.